Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. There is as yet still no confirmed case of coronavirus in Poland. Medical and emergency services remain on full alert. A meeting of voivodes was held in Warsaw in connection with the threat, with the participation of the Prime Minister, the Minister of Health and the head of the Interior Ministry.
All our civil services at the voivodeship level are on the alert, and the medical services are supplied with all the necessary materials, procedures and know-how. Citizens are being supplied with concise professional information, one might say in a pill, nomen omen, for the moment, and asked to do whatever is necessary to prevent the spread rather than treatment.
Mamy wdrożone procedury.
We had enforced procedures which until now had concerned only those who were returning from China. At this moment, we also know that we need to observe the same procedures for persons who visited areas of northern Italy, who had contact with those regions where the coronavirus was identified in Italy. Those persons who are returning from China and from northern Italy are subject to monitoring by medical services. As you can see, all the actions which are implemented are focused on real preparations to face up to the virus, which sooner or later is going to show up.
Na obecność tego wirusa.
Chcę też Państwa uspokoić i
I want to remind you and reassure you that we have a government agency named the Material Reserves Agency, which holds huge reserves of supplies, medicines and all necessary goods which might be needed for the moment of crisis. They can be used in situations difficult from an epidemiology point of view. So, the Material Reserves Agency has the necessary means and will use it on a grand scale in the moment of need.
Środki, żeby w sytuacji, kiedy będzie to niezbędne, użyć ich na masową skalę.
The Polish presidential election is only 75 days away. The Polish coalition, Polish People's Party Election Committee, was the first to submit its candidate, Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz, who already received 200,000 signatures. 100,000 are needed for a candidate to be able to stand. The Law and Justice Party and the Civic Platform Party are hoping that their candidates will each obtain 1 million signatures.
Today, in an interview for the Gazeta Polska newspaper, the leader of the Law and Justice Party, Jarosław Kaczyński, appealed to his party's supporters.
President Andrzej Duda is going to win the elections only if all of us work hard for his success and do not look for our own profit. All of our politicians must be aware of the fact that they have to forget about their own ambitions, political careers and plans to develop their own formations.
In an interview with the Sieci Weekly, President Andrzej Duda said that he has his mission that has to be finished.
We succeeded in a lot of things, but we have a huge task in the future. My rivals will not provoke me. I'm getting to know the real problems of Poles thanks to the meetings and talks with them. I'm finding out what irritates them, what causes them pain, what makes them smile, what they're hoping for. I'm finding out what they're expecting from me, the Prime Minister and our Parliament. Many things concern the unfinished business after 1989. I often hear about the lack of justice in the courts. We have to change that. This is our great task for the future.
According to the latest opinion poll made by United Survey for the Dziennik Gazety Prawnej and RMFFM, if the Polish presidential elections were held today, Andrzej Duda would get 41.9% of the votes. The second survey also shows Andrzej Duda's advantage over other candidates.
I am not opening a bottle of champagne yet, but I think our candidate has a real chance to get into the second round. But there is still a lot of hard work. We will see that we can end the rule of law and justice party. I think that our candidate has a real chance for the second round and to win, and that Mr. Kosiniak-Kamysz will be in the third place and that he will support our candidate, Małgorzata Kidawa-Błońska.
The OA session of the Law and Justice Club began at 5 p.m. today in Jahranka. The main topic was the presidential campaign.
Ministers of Agriculture from the 11 countries making up the Three Seas Initiative met today in Warsaw. They discussed the European Union's agricultural policy, mainly in the context of the challenges it faces in relation to the Green Order strategy adopted by the European Commission. President Andrzej Duda and EU Commissioner for Agriculture Janusz Wojciechowski were guests at the meeting.
Dla polskich rolników zostały
Our policy is that the subsidies for Polish farmers should be equal to the average level of the European Union. This means that Polish farmers should not receive less than the European Union average. So far, it has always been below the average, even though the difference has not been so great, about 21 euros per hectare, but we would like to still close the currently existing gap. We want the Polish farmer to receive payments in the new budget equal to the ones received by the average farmer in the European Union.
jakie otrzymuje średnio.
Nakłada na rolników bardzo.
We listen to the voice of individual countries and regions. We want to adapt the agricultural policy to these special needs. These special needs include the Green Deal, which imposes increased obligations on farmers and presents farmers with increased challenges. These challenges must be fairly distributed. The countries of Central and Eastern Europe have maintained more sustainable agriculture and, in connection with the Green Deal, have a great opportunity to lead the way in these changes, creating agriculture that is compatible with the environment, climate protection and animal welfare.
Ochrony klimatu czy dobrostanu zwierząt.
There is alarm in Italy. The coronavirus has claimed 8 deaths with at least 200,000 infections in what is the largest outbreak of the disease outside China and South Korea. Strict quarantine restrictions have been imposed in the two northern regions, Lombardy and Veneto, close to Milan and Venice.
The coronavirus death toll has reached 8 in Italy. Although the total number of those infected has exceeded 200, the authorities claim that the situation is under control.
We have a total of 219 cases in Italy. The data says in Lombardy there are 163 cases and 4 dead. In Veneto there are 26 cases and 1 dead. We tried to stop the spread of the virus and the contagion with precautionary measures. We have recorded 2 outbreaks in our country and we took decisive action, so we think that our country is safe, so tourists could come without problems.
The majority of people infected with the coronavirus come from Lombardy and did not travel to China. To prevent the spread of the virus, the authorities decided to isolate 11 towns, 10 in Lombardy and 1 in Veneto. It was also decided that events accompanying the carnival in Venice be cancelled. Some tourist attractions in Milan were also closed. We are out in the open air, but I don't see any danger. We are working a lot over the phone. People are not leaving their houses and we bring their shopping to them. That's the way we are working at this time.
We don't really know. There is too much alarmism, which is not always justified. Nevertheless, the situation is serious. We can't make light of it. I think we should approach things calmly.
The European Union is monitoring the situation in Italy closely, saying it will designate over 230 million euro for the fight against coronavirus outbreaks all over the world.
EU has full confidence on the Italian authorities and on the decisions that they are taking. The fact that we are obviously in solidarity with the 2 victims that were in Italy for the coronavirus in these weeks, and we share concern for possible contagious. There is no reason for panic, and there is a need to follow the instruction of public and health authorities.
According to the Polish Ministry of Health, additional checks will be introduced at airports throughout the country, which will apply to all passengers returning not only from China, but also from Italy.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.
Welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Let's see the forecast for tonight. In most regions, rainfalls are expected except Olsztyn, Rzeszów and Białystok. Wind will be weak and will blow from the southwest. In central Poland, temperature will range from 2 to 3 degrees. The coldest place tonight will be in the northeast with 1 degree. Maximum temperature will be in Zielona Góra, 4 degrees. Let's see the forecast for tomorrow. In most regions we may expect plenty of sunlight, but on the southwest rainfalls and snow will appear. Temperature will range from 4 degrees in Kraków to 7 degrees in Poznań. Let's check the weather for the next days. On Wednesday, temperature will increase to 11 degrees. Pressure will drop. On Thursday, snowfall will appear across Poland. Temperature will little fall. On Friday, weather will be very similar. Snow with rain will occur on the north and on the southeast. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Poland Daily Business Edition, and tonight we will obviously talk about green technologies, Green New Deal that European Union is going to impose on its member countries. Basically, the member countries should curb the CO2 emission in energetics, in industry, and obviously in agriculture. Our guest tonight is Jakub Wiechow, Energetyka24.pl portal. So welcome to the show.
Hello.
And please tell us who will benefit from this European Union rules regarding the curbing the emission.
Well, in the long term, everybody should benefit from our climate neutrality because it is a policy that's being introduced to stop climate change. However, in the shorter terms, we are talking about some more or less direct economic benefits stemming from, for example, technological change in the sphere of energy. And while looking on this, we have to acknowledge that some countries in Europe are more developed in the field of transforming their energy system than others. And the most important and the most advanced one is obviously the German state. And I think that while talking about beneficiaries of Green New Deal, we should point at Berlin and say that, well, Germans are going to be the beneficiaries of it. They have invested a lot of money in their Energiewende. They are trying to impose it, the model that are...
But this is not Germany who is mainly pushing for this legislation. We see that Germany, during their lignite lignite plants, want to, at least this are the information that came from the press, that they want to stop it, slow it down, reduce to some sensible amount.
I think that Germany will be able to find some additional sources of financing their coal exit thanks to Green New Deal, because we're talking about some amount of euros that will be split by the countries that are quitting coal, and Germany is one of them. Germany is the biggest lignite consumer in the world, and it needs lots of euros to handle with that process, and some federal some union states in Germany says that say that they will need more money than the federal government told them to give. So I think that it may help to Germany to continue their energy transition and to obtain some new financial sources to just help it going through, because Energiewende is in actually in some kind of point of no return, and as well in some troubles, mainly because of lack of money to, for example, windmill
So on one
farms.
side we have very advanced technology country like Germany, Norway, Sweden, the country that use hydropower. It has lots of wind and lots of sunshine. And on the other side of this equation, but also on the beneficiary, are those countries that will receive the investment, because Europe needs steel, Europe needs cement or concrete, Europe needs car production or any or other sources of food and industrial might that will not be produced locally due to the lack of technology and the CO2 pollution.
Yep, that's correct. And one of the biggest accusations coming from the critics of the EU climate policy is that the way that Brussels handles with it just pushes the emissions outside the EU.
Together with jobs.
Together with jobs, together with incomes, and so on. And we see it very visible, very clearly that, for example, the steel industry moves to Ukraine and opens their factories there. But that's why EU leaders came up with the idea of so-called coal tax that should be implemented on goods that are being imported to the EU from countries that do not handle properly with their climate policies. And well, if that mechanism will be implemented correctly, if that mechanism will work, we'll be able to stop the industry here in the EU. But as far as now, we cannot say that we know anything more specific than the fact that there has been some talks.
But generally, we can say that products and services will be more expensive in Europe than elsewhere in the world due to this new idea of curbing CO2 emission.
Well, it depends, actually. It depends on the costs of energy in the EU. It depends on the cost of energy outside the world. It depends, for example, on what will US do with their climate policy.
What are your ideas about that?
Well, I think that next year presidential elections in the US will bring another victory of Donald Trump. So the current line of Washington in the sphere of climate policy will be held. And but maybe it will be due to some trade deals with China. It will be more possible for the EU to, for example, use the force of United States to help Brussels negotiate with Beijing and to maybe grant some, for example, more ambitious reduction goals when it comes to emissions. And of course, we look very closely what will happen in the next COP26 in Glasgow, because the last one, COP25 in Madrid, did not bring anything specific in that matter.
Yeah, well, this is obviously a hope that the countries that are developing, that had real problem like India, China, Brazil, South America, will follow the good example that sets the Europe. We have this saying in Poland, dobrymi chęciami jest piekło wybrukowane. The good hopes are deep in the hell.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Jakub Wiech, Energetyka24.pl, Chief Editor. Sir, thank you very much for this conversation. And that was it for Poland Daily Business tonight.
Welcome back to Poland Daily Weather. Let's see the forecast for tomorrow. In most regions we may expect plenty of sunlight, but on the southwest rainfalls and snow will appear. Temperature will range from 4 degrees in Kraków to 7 degrees in Poznań. Let's take a look at the forecast for our continent. On the south of Europe, temperature will rise. The highest temperature we will see in Rome, 18 degrees. In Central Europe, we will see alternating rainfalls, sunlight and snow. In Scandinavia, temperature will fall to -1 degree in Oslo. In British Islands, temperature will range from 5 to 9 degrees in London. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Good day, everyone. My name is Maria Kądzielska, and you are watching Poland Daily Culture. She loves to sing, but she doesn't sing about boyfriends or broken hearts, but she sings to God. And that's pretty impressive. Ladies and gentlemen, Maja Sawińska, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for invitation.
But before we learn more about her CD, let's at first listen to her music. Maya, so let's start with your CD. It is a collection of songs to cherish God and to express your faith. And tell me, please, how did it all started?
It has all started always on prayer. During my hidden time with God, I have to say that quite often it starts there.
And so, but you like to sing, you finished a music school. But how did you develop and how did you manage to get this idea and eventually to realize having your whole city yourself?
Yeah, in whole my life, I've been always involved in some music project and so on, and as well, I was always singing in church and during some gatherings, Christian gatherings, and so on. So my life is somehow connected to worship music from the beginning. But how it came to the CD, I must say that I was just playing piano, I was singing, I was alone. And that was a place where my community gathered. That was in Krakow. And that was just my fellowship time with God. And I just started to sing and to compose during my prayer. And that's how those songs came out.
Because you are the author of the music and you are the author of the lyrics.
Yes.
All together.
Mm-hmm.
It needed to be a lot of work. How much time did it take to produce the final product?
Not really that long, because many of those verses are just taken straight from the Bible, yes? So all those verses that are around it are just from my poetry, from my heart. And so it's hard to say, because on that CD, we have 3 songs that were composed during my years in Krakow, where I was a student, so that was 7 years ago. 4 of them were composed quite recently, half year ago or one year ago, and 1 is additional because this is our guest song. The whole thing, I mean, to see that product. Maybe I can show it in the middle of it. Half a year? Yeah, half a year to see something like this, like physical thing.
Not that long, to be honest. No. And tell me exactly what kind of songs are there? What are the titles and what did they describe?
I think that I have a message in this CD to talk about God's fearfulness. I mean, this is some kind of disposition of our hearts that enables us to hear His voice, to be sensitive to His movings in our lives. This is what I wanted to sing about this disposition of our hearts, to be ready for God's calling anytime.
Sounds very beautiful. Do you think that music is a good way of an evangelization?
Yes, because I think that nowadays people are so much around all those incentives and noises and so on, that good music, I hope, can catch their attention. And this is a value, I think. Because nowadays people don't often have time to read books or to read anything. It's easier to listen. So maybe this is the way.
And do young people need faith in their life? Because many of them are looking for the path or the destination, also their calling, but not usually through God. How do you think that also music can bring younger people to faith?
My experience is that in those days we have young people that are longing for something more in their lives, and they often look for that more in bad places. Even if
superficially they are looking for it in good places, for example, in making career and so on. My experience is that only God has power to fill that place in our heart, that empty place that we sometimes feel in our hearts. So music, I think, can be a tool because it can speak to people not only through words, I mean, not only to their brains, but also music has something that can move hearts without anything. It doesn't need anything more, just the tune. And also I have some testimonies from young people that the music I've written, I've composed, helps them in their lives to get closer to God, and that there is a chance for them to even discover some spaces in their hearts that they didn't even know about, those spots. Many chances are hidden inside, I guess.
Maja Sowińska claims that music can bring you closer to God and helps you find your way. Maybe it's worth giving a try if you are looking for your call and your destination. So go and check out her CD, and thank you for watching Poland Daily Culture.
Welcome to Poland Daily History with me, Nicholas Richardson. I'm joined in the studio this week by Professor Krzysztof Jabłonka, and we're going to talk about relations between Poland and some of its neighbours. Professor, welcome again.
Welcome again.
And can we start with Romania? And Polish-Romanian relations probably began sometime way back in the 15th century. Could you sort of talk us through the story?
Jest to jeden z naszych najciekawszych sąsiadów. Notabene...
This is one of our most interesting neighbors. By the way, this is a neighbor with whom, except for one conflict in the 16th century, we had very good, peaceful contacts. That was primarily in the area of culture, but also in the field of trade. Finally, when both our countries became independent states, it also applied to politics. Romania historically began its separate existence near the borders of Poland. It is even marked by the exact year when the nephew of our king, Casimir the Great, whom we mentioned earlier, became king of Hungary. Louis the Hungarian was called Louis the Great in Hungary. In 1350, the previously defeated Tatars left the southern shores of Europe, the Black Sea coast, and thus several tens of thousands of Romanians, the same Romanians who survived numerous invasions in the Carpathian Mountains in the Middle Ages, crossed the so-called Carpathian Bend. The Carpathian Mountains are divided into at least three groups. The southern Carpathians separate the Danube Valley, then there are the eastern Carpathians, they separate the Dniester Valley, and the northern Carpathians, they are the Polish Carpathians, and they separate the Vistula Valley. At that time, the state of Casimir the Great, which expanded to include the kingdom of the Red Ruthenia, came into contact with the first Romanians, who were then called Moldovans. A common border was initially formed somewhere in the valley, and only later the Chermesz stream was established as the border. Poles withdrew from some of the hills and gave them to Romanian shepherds, and they in turn gave us the Śniatenland, near the Dniester River. This border survived in that shape until World War II. You can see from this that our relations were quite good. Initially, the Principality of Moldova tried to take away the so-called Pokuce, the area around the town of Kute, part of which laid on the Carpathian land. However, the ruler of Moldova, Rares, suffered an incredible defeat in the Battle of Obertyn. This is an outstanding battle in Polish history. In 1531, our first great hetman of Tarnów, our first great hetman overall, endured the siege of his camp, and at a critical moment he led the Polish cavalry, which was already gaining notoriety, gaining importance. The Polish cavalry completely destroyed the Moldovan army. The destruction was so complete and brutal that these poor Moldovans were slaughtered, and since these were the times of the Renaissance, the custom of not taking prisoners was widespread. Very bloody events took place there. Later, Moldova fell into dependence on Turkey. The closer they were with Turkey, the more distance separated them from Poland. Initially, Moldova persevered until the end of the 15th century in the Polish fief. An army unit sent by a Moldovan ruler even took part in the memorable Battle of Grunwald. About 800 knights fought with us in 1410. Nevertheless, in 1497, Moldova changed the front and, to join the company with the Turks, attacked the Polish knights, nobility, who died in the forests of Bukowina. This happened during the reign of King Jan Olbracht, and therefore a proverb was written which said that during the reign of King Olbracht, the nobility became extinct. Later, Poles were not very interested in the Moldovans, but in the 17th century, when the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was a powerhouse of the middle of Europe, Moldovans rescued themselves from Turkey and its aggression by fleeing to Poland. Our great Hetman Jan Zamoyski did not only crush the Turks and Tatars there, but also Michał Waleczny, after whom he took control of all three Romanian principalities, as they were then called: Moldova, Włosian and Transylvania. A relative of the previous Polish king, Batory, ruled over Transylvania. It didn't last long. The Republic was a special country where the citizens made sure that the king didn't have too much power and had not too big of an army. So they paid to maintain the army, but only in case of danger. As a result, the king was not able to defend these principalities, so when the Turkish army came, they quickly settled the matter.
W związku z tym król nie był w stanie obronić tych księstw i gdy przyszły wojska tureckie, one szybciutko zmieniły front.
So, Professor, obviously during the time that Poland was partitioned, there really wasn't as much contact between Romania and Poland, yet Romania became quite an important ally of Poland in the interwar years. Could you say something, please, about that?
Przede wszystkim kontakty z Rumunami.
First of all, contacts with Romanians revived when our legions entered the Carpathians. The legions were on the Austrian side, which was theoretically hostile, but we liked Romanians, so there were friendly contacts between Romanians and Poles. When the Poles broke off ties with Austria, and this took place in February 1918, the whole Polish corps went to the other side of the border. The Romanians welcomed us as guests. When the Republic of Poland was reborn, very friendly contacts were immediately established. Let us remember that before World War I, Romania consisted of two territories, Włosian on the Danube and Moldova along the Dniester. Then it expanded to include Transylvania, an area that previously belonged to Hungary, where the Romanian population lived to a large extent, although to this day some Hungarians also live here. At that time, Poland was able to make friendly contacts with Romania because Romania was also threatened by Soviet Russia and later by the Soviet Union, which wanted to take away Moldova from them. Very quickly an alliance called Intermarium was formed. The contacts between the countries were so close that the head of the regiments of both countries were the heads of each other's armies. In Poland it was the King of Romania, and in Romania Marshal Józef Piłsudski. They visited each other. It was a great honor for the Romanians, because they were one of the few nations that welcomed the reborn Poland with joy and saw in it the continuation of the former mighty republic. For the Poles, on the other hand, Romanians were regarded as the Western Roman world in the East. In this way, they were able to maintain such friendly contacts for 20 years that when the impact of two hostile powers at the start of World War II fell on Poland, Romania became an asylum for us. 88 tons of Polish gold went through Romania, which made it possible to finance the rescue of Poles within the country. It was through Romania that the Polish government got into exile, and it was in Romania that the president and commander-in-chief were peacefully interned. From there, Commander-in-Chief Edward Rydz-Śmigły returned to Poland, where he died of tuberculosis.
I stamtąd Wódz naczelny Rydz Śmigły wrócił do Polski, tu zmarł na gruźlicę.
That's all we've got time for on this edition. I'd like to thank my guest, Professor Krzysztof Jabłonka. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and do join us again as we delve into the annals of Polish history.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Poland Daily Travel. I'm Will, and we are in the center of Poland. And in the center of this town, in the center of Poland, we're in the old Rynek of Piotrków Trybunalski. That's right. We are about, I would say, 40 kilometers from Łódź, just to the southeast. And Lublin's over there somewhere. And what else? Kielce over there somewhere, and Częstochowa down there somewhere. The closest city being Łódź, and about 100 kilometers from Warsaw. What an amazing town. I've often seen the signs over the years in travels throughout Poland, and even recently in our travels down to Kielce and to Świętokrzyska, the Holy Cross Mountains. I have seen the signs for this town, but I have never stopped here. Never. Unbelievable, because it's not that far from the freeway, and boy, is it worth the stop. It's an amazing town. You can see by looking at this square that they are redoing the old kamienicas, particularly on this side, and I see spires of the churches in the area. There are a lot of nice little slickets and small lanes leading off the main square. So it's got that real medieval running to Renaissance feeling. You know, in the 1500s, which is Renaissance, Elizabethan times at the end of the century, this was the heart of Poland's judicial and legislative bodies. In fact, the most important court was here during that time. This is Poland's golden age. And this town, right here, very important. It was a crossroads, not only for justice and for the creation of law and managing the country, and it was a good position to do that being in the center. Remember, this is all pre-industrial, so they are making wood, things from wood and glass and those kind of products and textiles, weaving. That was what was done here, and that's what made it a center. Not far from the Police River as well, which is a tributary of the Vistula. So it's a great location. And because of its great location and because it was a judicial center, you had the gathering of religions. You had evangelical, German evangelicals in the Reformation. You had, of course, Catholicism was seated here. And you also had a very important synagogue at the time. There was a large Jewish population here in the 1500s and before. In fact, for 200 or 300 years, the Jews had been chased out of the Holy Roman Empire, and Casimir the Great, the famous Polish king of the 1300s who built so many castles, had invited the Jews in, escaping from the Holy Roman Empire. So there is a rich, rich legacy here. And look at these kamienicas. As I just walked around, you've had a good panorama of the kind of architecture of a very typical Renaissance town. In fact, walking around here, you could, with a bit more paint and whatever, you could have the feeling you were in a little village in France or even Italy. It's very beautiful. So we're going to walk around. We're going to have a look at the town. But first, we're going to duck in and see my friends at the Beer Museum, which is just off the square. So come along. See you after the bumper in the Beer Museum. It's right over there. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I promised you a beer museum, and indeed, we're in a beer museum. And I have one of the world's largest spoons ever made. I guess it's to stir the beer in the thing?
Yes.
In this thing?
In the bathroom, yes.
Well, this is a bathtub,
yes,
isn't it?
Yes.
And you're supposed to put the beer in the bathtub?
Yes. And
why?
You can bath in the beer.
You can bathe in the beer?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to do that later. We didn't bring any ladies, though. It'd be nice to have a lady bathing in the beer. I think we get more people looking at the show. Anyway, this is Szymon Bugajski, and Szymon, you're a guide here, right?
Yes.
Are you one of the owners here? Do you own also Właściciel? Are you an owner as well? No, just a guide.
Only
yeah?
worker.
You're only a worker here.
Yes.
Yeah, and he had some very good lighting ideas too, impromptu. So we maybe take him on tour with us around the country when he has time. At any rate, it's very nice of you to have us in. And I think, can I play this? If I put some strings on this, we could have some fun, you know? It's almost like it could be like a bass. It's more shaped like a bass. Don't you think so, cameraman? It's more shaped like a bass? Just nod your head. He's nodding his head. Very good. Put this back in the bathtub. Szymon, how long has this been going on? And why is this here?
This museum is like 5 years in this place. It's connected with the brewery and industry brewery in the Piotrków Trybunalski.
There's a brewery here. What's the name of the brewery?
Jan Olbracht, browar rzemieślniczy.
Ah, Jan Olbracht. He's a big hero in Poland, right? Yeah.
This is the building from the 16th century.
1500s, the heyday of Poland.
Yes. Yeah. It's named Ad Bonas. This is related with the history of Poland and Queen Bona.
Queen Bona, the great Queen Bona. Yeah, yeah. So this whole square is very, this whole town and this central part of the town is very important, isn't it?
Yes.
You have many churches here as well. You have Evangelist Church, you have Catholic Church, of course. You have synagogue.
Yes.
Reconstructed, yes, now or not?
The synagogue.
Yeah. Is it? Can we see it?
In this synagogue is library.
But we can see the building, right?
Yes, yes.
But it's not as operating.
Great synagogue from Piotrków.
So the building is existing,
yes.
right? So this is a tribute to the. I was just talking in the previous segment about the religious affiliations of the city. Of course, it was judicial center and legislative center.
It's road of fourth culture, like Catholic. Jewish,
Evangelist,
yes, and
German, rather,
and Orthodox,
and Greek Orthodox, right?
Tak.
Greek Orthodox, not Russian Orthodox, but Greek Orthodox. It's fascinating, isn't it? Now tell me, how long have you been working in this here place?
5 months.
You've been working here 5 months. Are you enjoying it?
Yes.
You having fun?
Yes.
Do you get a lot of people in the summer?
Yes.
Oh, I bet you do. In the summer, it must be amazing. There's Jan Olbracht. Okay, you're going to put your coat on and come out and walk around with us for a while? Okay, we'll be right back in the next segment. Wait, the next segment, we're going to be walking around outside, nearby in the beautiful city of...
Piotrków Trybunalski.
Slower?
Piotrków Trybunalski.
Piotrków Trybunalski. For all of those who are not speaking Polish, like me. Okay. Okay, we'll be right back. Stay tuned in the next episode for more from this here beautiful town.